I've just had the worst haircut in the world ever, as I'm sure you'll agree. Well, actually, it's probably not the worst haircut, but there were two things. First of all, I say to my Moroccan hairdresser, please, only scissors, right? Not that brrrr. Okay, he says, and immediately starts off with a. I have to correct him. He still goes on. He thinks I'm being highly amusing. But I suppose it's okay, and he's not taking too much off. But then he starts combing it so that I've got a sort of that horrible back comb look from one side to the other. Now, as you can see, I don't have a lot of hair anyway, but I think the most awful thing in the world is that horrible back comb thing. So I say to him, no, and smooth it back to looking normal like it does now. He roars with laughter again and gives me another comb over parting. So I take it back again. Anyway, eventually it's done and has now been completed. One of the awful things about getting old is you discover you need a haircut every couple of weeks. Otherwise, if you're 78, as I am, you'll find that hard to believe, you start looking like one of those mad professors with all the split ends going all over the place. And I like my hair to look reasonably neat, but for some reason it grows very quickly when you're old with lots of split ends. So I need to go every couple of weeks. Anyway, let's be honest, I now look absolutely gorgeous. The drive north from Marrakech up to first Casablanca, then Rabat and so on is a lovely drive, and you see all sorts of different things. The only thing is you also get the climate changes because you're going north, and as a result what tends to happen is you'll be absolutely fine for some while, then all of a sudden it'll go misty or rainy and you'll be in almost impenetrable fog, rather like a Stephen King story, for about 20 minutes, and then it clears up again. It's like the rain. I have to say, the rain in Morocco is actually quite pleasant because it comes down, pouring down, but it's only for about an hour. It drenches down, then it goes completely sunny again, and you can see the earth with gratitude as the sort of steam rises from the pink or red earth, and you're back in the gorgeous sunshine once more. I think it's rather fun, which is quite unusual for me because I've got to admit, normally I can't stand the rain.
I can't stand the rain against my window, bringing back sweet memories. Hey window pane, do you remember how sweet it used to be when we were together? Everything was so grand. Now that we've parted, there's just one sound that I just can't stand. I can't stand the rain against my window, bringing back sweet memories. I can't stand the rain against my window, 'cause she's not here with me. Well, there's the pillow where her head used to lay. I know you've got sweet memories, but like the window, you've got nothing to say. Hey, I can't stand the rain against my window, bringing back sweet memories. I can't stand the rain against my window, it just keeps on haunting me. I can't stand the rain, I can't stand the rain, I can't stand the rain. rain. I can't stand the rain. I can't stand the rain. I can't stand the rain.
Loads of toll booths on all the motorways, of course, in Morocco, and they're very confused when they see that for some reason the driver isn't there next to them. He's on the right of the car, miles away, and we both have to stretch, straining, and each time I just say "stupid anglais," which they understand, and roar with laughter. I remember a friend of mine who was a young friend, and he's Arabic here in Morocco, and he used to smoke cigarettes, which a lot of the young do, most of them do in Morocco, which I really can't stand. I think is madness. So every time he'd light up a cigarette, I'd say, "Stupid boy." Then, of course, because he was rather offended, because he said, "I'm not stupid," all this in French, incidentally, which is my second language and his second language, I then have to explain to him what Stupid Boy is all about, Dad's Army. I have to go into the plot of Dad's Army. The British sense of humour is rather different from a lot of others, especially the Germans, and so it really takes forever to explain why calling him a stupid boy is not necessarily rude. I can't tell you how many times I've driven down this road from Casablanca to Rabat. It's about an hour, and I've gone both ways because they're two of my favourite cities in the world, and I've been coming here for 60 years, and I always drive, not always in the Rolls, but always in a car, because I like to be on wheels. So I've got to know both cities very well, and I've watched the roads as they've improved. The motorways now in Morocco are really good, really good, and I enjoy the drive. Rabat is actually my favourite city in Morocco. It's also the capital, and it's very clean and polished because the royal family lives here, including, of course, the king, and it's very clean because I remember when Morocco did so well in the World Cup, and there were shots of all the different cities celebrating, and one of the comments was how clean Rabat looked compared to many of the other cities. Not Marrakech, which is also very clean. I actually think generally most of the cities look great, but it was sort of slightly complained about. People tend not to realise that Rabat is actually by the sea. It's right smack on the Atlantic Ocean and is twinned. It's not really so much twinned, it's actually Rabat Salé. Salé is the other part of Rabat across the bridges that combine the two cities. And actually, we'll get to Salé in a moment or two. But for now, I wanted to go back to the topic of the false allegations industry. As you know, I fell a victim to this back in 2000 when somebody, encouraged by Max Clifford, the public relations person, made a complaint to the police about sexual activity with me that had never actually happened. In fact, I never even met the man. But I went through the process, and back then it was really quite spectacularly different and disturbing, I have to say. I survived it. I'm here today, 23 years later, but it was really quite an extraordinary experience, and is absolutely dreadful for most people. It's in my character to be able to survive such things. But the main thing I want to make is don't always blame the false accusers. Yes, there are quite a few who are really only after money and basically see a way of getting money. But the vast majority have been convinced, either by the media or people around them, that something really did happen when it didn't. I think most common of all is in families where people will possibly blame their grandfathers or grandmothers for things that never happened. But in their mind and in their memory, these things did happen and are terrible and tragic. It's normally because of the media. When the media gets onto something, it pushes something so hard, and it can only push one side because that's the way great stories are made. So as a result, you'll see stories quite often involving celebrities or famous people in which people become convinced that these things happened when really they did not. The people I blame are not only the media, which is after all only doing what its main purpose is, which is to create good stories and get public interest and attention, but the others, like the lawyers who know full well somebody is a fantasist or is making something up, but basically support them, not just because they feel sorry for them, but because they want to make a lot of money out of them, which I think is a disgrace. But also the police, who often do the same thing in return for budget improvements. And so indeed do the people in the court, the judges and the juries, all of which genuinely, I think 99% of the time, want to get to the truth, but actually fall for the story. That's my main message. Don't fall for the story. Don't go for the superficial. Think deeply.
Baby, I'm through running, it's true. I'd be a fool to try to escape you. Maybe I'm beat, but oh, what a sweet surrender. You keep your rights, I'll take your nights. No one can lose when we turn the lights out. Tasting defeat, loving that sweet surrender. I'm giving up myself to you, but I didn't really lose at all. I gave the only love I knew, and it never hurt me to fall. Now that it's done, so glad you won. I know our lives have only begun, hon. No more retreat, only my sweet surrender. Well, honey, I may be beat. Oh, what a sweet surrender.
I was lucky enough at the age of 18, 19, 20 to record a big hit song, which I'd also written myself. And as a result, I earned quite a lot of money. So I was able to travel, and two of my favourite hotels, and we're talking about 60 years ago, were the Cavalieri Hilton in Rome, Italy, and the other Hilton, which was the Hilton in Rabat, Morocco. Both had fantastic swimming pools, marvellous luxury facilities, and I used to stay in both and still do, and still love both of them. They are still my two favourite hotels in the world. For this time, I've experimented by trying the new Fairmont Hotel. More about that later, but also I have, of course, visited the which is now the Sofitel in Rabat. It's been through 4 changes. It was a Hilton when it started. It then became Hyatt, then became Hilton again, and a few years ago was converted to Sofitel, which is the top-of-the-range Accor. So I still love it. I still go there and stay there every visit. Every year I've been staying there over the past 60 years or so. I wanted to talk a little bit about veganism and vegetarianism. A friend of mine who just became a vegan had just contacted me because I'm always moaning at them, and I genuinely cannot understand why they become vegans or vegetarians. And they usually give me two reasons. One is for health, because they think it's healthier not to eat meat. And the second is the sort of moral one, that basically they don't like killing things. Well, both of these make no sense to me whatsoever. The first one seems to me to be bizarre and odd because everybody is an individual. Example, if you're allergic to nuts, you don't eat nuts or you poison yourself. And therefore meat and chicken and fish and eggs and things may be very good for some people, for their metabolism and their bodies and everything else, and poison for others. So I think following any kind of diet as a cult level is ridiculous. It is belonging to a cult, which very much is the second thing. I think many people belong to vegans and vegetarians for cult reasons. They like associating themselves with a particular group of people, and I don't think that's very healthy. Plus, their arguments make no sense at all. Somebody said to me, because you can hear an animal scream when it's being killed, but you don't hear a vegetable scream. So therefore, in their opinion, they say a vegetable is less worthy of life than an animal. That makes no sense to me whatsoever. I mean, unless you like to think of yourself as God, who gives you the right to value life? It makes it absolutely ridiculous. So that is my other major argument. And there's the one about the environment, which goes into the fact that human beings eating meat and so on produces gases that actually help climate change and everything. I think that's rubbish. My whole thing about climate change is 99% of climate change is due to the sun and space and matters that are completely beyond humanity. And the tiny amount that's caused by humanity is really not changeable by deciding to drive electric or not to fart. I can't stand that spoon-faced Greta Thunberg, but I suppose she means well. I'm sure she's well-intentioned and I'm sure she's got everything in her heart is right, but she's so superficial. And this is the problem with everybody in humanity these days. They are all so superficial. There are no specific, easy slogan, tabloid, front-page headline answers anymore. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed our look at Rabat. I can't really explain why it's my favourite city in Morocco. I think it's probably because it was one of the very first I came to, fell in love with the Hilton Hotel, now the Sofitel Jardin des Roses, and have just always loved the city. But it is, as it's the capital and the palace is here and the royal family are here mainly, it's full of embassies and everything. It's very clean, it's very smart, very expensive properties. I just love the place. And you can really get everything here now. I mean, I converted them fairly early on. I used to argue all the time to my friends, we're talking 50, 60 years ago, why on earth don't you grow avocado pears here? The climate is absolutely perfect, and I'm sure you do very well. Well, now you find them everywhere. I mean, they're almost a staple for everybody, grown all over the place and exported to everywhere, wherever you want it. Likewise, it took me ages to convince Moroccans that they should start serving Chinese food, Asian food, Japanese food, but specifically Thai cuisine. And they now have some really good Thai restaurants. But I do love Rabat. As I said some time ago, the wonderful thing about Morocco is every single city is like a country. They're all completely individual. Each one is unlike another, as hopefully you're seeing in this series. Marrakech, which I love too, is absolutely nothing like Rabat. Likewise, many of the others are completely different from each other, and that makes it even more interesting, I think, anyway. Meanwhile, Rabat is so different that actually it's two parts, and the other part is even more different than Rabat is, and that's Saleh across the bridges. So I reckon that deserves an entire show all its own. So that's the end of this show, A Victim Bites Back, show 7. And the next one you will see is going to be A Victim Bites Back, show 8, mainly concentrating on Saleh. So I do hope you enjoy it and will join us for that. In the meantime, here's a little bit of music to keep you dancing on your feet, and it's been an absolute pleasure to serve you a delight.